And I didn't know that fear of being single, now I'm coming out of a relationship where I called my wedding off 6 days beforehand and found out my fiance was cheating on me. So I had reason to be a little
jaded, yes.
A little jaded. But I didn't know that there was a connection truly between love and business until that moment.
And even deeper than that, just even if it's not romantic love, just the emotional things that sometimes we're holding on to that could be that block. I actually had a mentor one time who told me that she did not make her first million until she forgave her father. And wow. I felt like, wow, that was such a profound thing, because even if you don't have daddy issues, like we all have something. Yeah. We're all dealing with something. And like you said, we're suppressing it because we're in survival mode most of the time. So we're doing the things, we're taking the action, we're doing the work, but we're not really digging deep into like what's stopping us from getting to that next level. So I love that you were able to recognize that.
Yeah. And I think, over the years, so I started my coaching company in 2010. I was coming out of a broken engagement, an embarrassing
the
situation.
shame.
I mean, people were coming in from all over the world, this fairy tale wedding. I had held on to my virginity. You were like, well, that's not what we're supposed to talk about.
No, let's talk about it.
Well, so I held on to that. That was something for me in my faith and my faith walk. I believe also in many ways it protected me from but I was all the way in this relationship. I had closed down my sports business for it. I had started a sports agency managing NFL and NBA players. It was the fastest growing woman-owned sports agency in less than a year. My first client was $62 million, signed a $62 million deal. And so I had all of this, but I was willing to close all of that down for love. And I was going to be a bonus mom to his 3 kids. So it was the biggest blessing. But when I called that off, I was trying to reinvent. The first thing that I did before I talk about the business part is I got my butt in counseling.
Yes.
Very quickly.
We are advocates for therapy.
I mean, it was such a dramatic, we're talking 6 days before. If I could take you to that moment. It's a Monday morning before a Saturday wedding. My fiance is on the plane on his way to Atlanta for wedding week.
Did you find out that morning, or you made the decision that morning?
It all happened in the same thing. It was the grace of God that it happened in the same moment. Wow. And it was the woman who he was cheating with. You have to read the book to figure out who she was.
Wait, are you going to say her name in the book?
It doesn't matter her name. I don't use names because I don't think it's necessary.
We ain't even giving you no shine.
But you'll know who she is. Like the nature of the relationship makes it even worse.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
Okay.
Makes it even.
Gotta get the book, y'all.
It makes it even. It prolonged my stay in therapy.
Gotcha.
And it's funny for those of you who may be going through something hard right now. It's just important to remember one day you'll laugh too. One day you'll laugh too. But so it's that morning, and he's on the plane. He's on his way in town for wedding week, and I call him because I'm like, this can't be true. And he has to go because this is back when you couldn't keep your phones on the plane, and the flight attendant said, you got to turn this off. And so, but I called the wedding off that day. But when I say it was the grace of God, that night before, I had this encounter with the Holy Spirit that I can't really describe. It's never happened to me like that before. Now, in retrospect, I believe that grace covers us like armor. We think about grace as this nice, soft thing. Grace is really preparing us for the things that are beyond ourselves. Because when I met him, when he landed in Atlanta at the airport, all I could say is thank God for Homeland Security. Because when we sat at that restaurant, all I noticed was the sharp knives. And there are moments where we can lose everything that we've built in our emotion and in betrayal and something that is evil, borderline even demonic. It doesn't mean that you're not justified in the sense of there was something that was done and there's a natural reaction to react to an attack. And so when I say the grace of God, the fact that I made it to the airport, made it back to my home, and I felt like I was handling a case for an athlete client. It was kind of an out-of-body experience. Because I even called her while I'm on the way.
The lady.
You got to get the book.
Well, I got the book now.
You got
to read the book.
I'm just saying. But the grace, real. I understand amazing grace in a wholly different way, because it protected my income for me not to respond. It protected potentially my liberty. I mean, I could see how a woman just flips, I don't think, now later, He went back. I told him we weren't. He didn't have to go home, but he wasn't going home
gotta
with
get
me.
up out of here.
You could go. He got back on a plane, went back to Chicago, but when I got back home and I sat on my couch, the same couch that I had the encounter with the Holy Spirit the night before, I had felt this oak tree presence that entire morning. Hadn't cried. I felt like a lawyer, because I'm a lawyer by trade, handling a case for a client, and but then that oak tree turned into a weeping willow, and that's when the healing. I wouldn't even say the healing. That's when the reality of me feeling like I did all these things right. Professionally, personally, academically, spiritually, sexually, I thought all of these things. And I'm like, God, this is my reward. So that was what I call now a split rock moment. That was an awakening for a new life that I didn't know that I was blocking, because whenever you pray the prayer, God, use me, you're actually asking God to split you up. Mm-hmm. And if there's something attached to you that's beneath the caliber of you, it's got to go, but you wouldn't let it go yourself, and you probably don't even know that it's beneath you because you don't understand the level of elevation that God's even calling you to. And likely it's because you would never go in the direction he's calling you to. And for me, it was women, to help women, and I had zero desire to work with women.
Because you were coming from sports.
I was coming from sports. Mm-hmm. I have 2 brothers, 8 male athletes. I was the woman who said, I have male friends. Yep. I get along better with guys. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I was on The Apprentice. That's a very A-type, masculine type of show. I won the task against the guys. I was the project manager is what they used to call it, for those of you who don't remember The Apprentice. For those of you who don't remember that. But I was the project manager, and we won the task of all women's team against the men with a Lamborghini. So I have always gravitated towards the male. Mm-hmm. And it was that day after, the day after the wedding was scheduled to take place. I say scheduled as opposed to supposed to, because there's many things that we schedule that were never supposed to happen. And if you tell yourself it was supposed to, it makes the recovery, reinvention, healing, forward process so much harder, because you've told yourself, I'm missing what I was supposed to have.
Yeah.
But you can never, you shouldn't miss what we were never supposed to have, but your heart needs to catch up to that reality. Mm-hmm. And so I'm leaning up against this luxury vehicle that he bought me. I'm, thinking that I'm supposed to be in this car going back for an event with Essence magazine, and then from there to our honeymoon. But instead, we're at the host hotel, and everyone who still flew in town is still there, because, we had a rehearsal dinner was supposed to be at Justin's, which is Diddy's restaurant. Mm-hmm. I had thrown a lot of events. This is some people wouldn't guess because they don't think I'm a partier, which I'm not, but I'm a moneymaker. I threw one of the biggest events they've ever had at Justin's. Made the most that they've ever made in one night, including the events that Diddy threw.
It was a party?
Oh, I threw athlete events.
Got you.
They weren't parties.
Got you. They were experiences.
They were experiences, but I had Rolls Royce, Tiffany and Company as sponsors. I had never done any of that before. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So anyway, we had the rehearsal dinner turned into an I Love Marshawn dinner. And that next day, everyone's getting ready to leave. I'm leaning up against this luxury vehicle that he bought me that now I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford, because I closed my business down for this relationship. And I asked God, why did this happen to me? And it wasn't one of those, woe is me. It was, I don't care that we're on the West Peachtree, one of the busiest streets in Atlanta. I don't care that there's all these people. I need to know this, God, because it's me. You know me, I know it's me. I'm asking from a humble place, like, why? You clearly, this is so dramatic.
Yeah.
And he said, you're going to be able to change the lives of women like never before. And I was like, could you not have sent me a memo?
Couldn't have told me any other way.
That was the beginning of when I say a whole new life, an entire new path, and meeting a version of myself that I didn't know existed, and I never would have walked up to introduce myself to her. I would have never wanted to meet her of my own choice. So purpose is not about your passion, because you can't be passionate about something that you've never done. And there are many things that you have learned to do well, but then there are other things that you've never done that you do even better. You just haven't met the real you yet. And that's really what I feel like the work is in this season of my life, is introducing people to a higher version of themselves that's in this dimension that God has kept secret so that you would have to rise up. You would have to go through the work to enter into this promised land dimension. And that is more than just, basic stuff. It's more than just Instagram flexing and social media, superficial stuff. This is the work that if we do this, and again, this is to me still this relationship between love and business. I didn't know that it would be infidelity that would walk me into a new identity, that would also elevate me into becoming a millionaire and developing an income and helping others to do the same. So we're not one-dimensional. So it's not just your love with a love relationship. It's not just your relationship with your parents. It's not just we're 360, especially as women. There's multiple chambers of our heart that the more we surrender and the more we get smart and skilled, I think it's just really, we have an unlimited path before us.
Yeah, I haven't even asked the question yet.